Let's discuss about what is OAuth2. OAuth2 is an authorization framework that enables on applications. For example, in applications like Facebook, GitHub, and there are so many sub applications are there to obtain limited access to the user accounts on HTTP service. It works by delegate user authentication to see the service that hosts a user account and authorizing third-party applications to access that user account. Auth2 provides authentication flows for web and desktop applications. It also as well as on mobile devices as well. So these information guide is how to use or how to enable Auth2 authentication on web application. So let's see how we can do that. So before that, there are some four primary roles in authentication. So let's see what are those first. So first one is resource owner. So the resource owner is a user who authorizes an application to access their account. The application access to the user account is limited to the scope of the authorization granted. So for example, read or write access. Second is a client. So client is the application that want to access the user's account. Before it may do so, it must be authorized by the user, and the authorization must be validated by the API. The third one, resource server. So the resource server hosts the protected user account. The last one, the fourth authentication role, the authorization server verifies the identity of the user, then issues access token to the application. So these are the four authentication roles. Okay. From an application developer point of view, a service API fulfill both the resource and authorization server roles. Okay, so we'll refer to the both these roles combined as a service of an API role. So this diagram shows that the protocol flow of your uh, authentication roles. Okay, so the diagram looks clear. So I'll give you a brief on about this diagram. So the first step is the application requests authorization to access service resources from the user. Second, if the user authorized the request, the application receives an authorization grant. The third step, the application requests an access token from the authorization server, which means the API, by presenting the authentication of its own identity and the authorization grant. Then fourth one, if the application identity is authenticated and the authorization grant is valid, the authorization server, the API, issues an access token to the application. So the access token is more important here. Then the authorization is complete and the access token is uniquely given to each user. Then the fifth one, the application request that resource from the resource server. So every time when I mention a resource server is mentioned for API and it present the access token for authentication. At last one, if the access token is valid, the resource server API serves the resource to the application. Okay, so this is the flow how this access token and the other things are work. Okay. Okay, so let's see how we can create an auth to client ID and how we can develop a web application. So what we have to do first is we move to Google uh, API console to configure these API tokens. So this is the dashboard of Google Cloud Platform Console. So simply you can Google it as Google Cloud Platform, and it will redirect to a screen just like this. So this is my dashboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to create API and services. So simply click on that tab. So take some time to get loaded. Okay, so here I have so many projects already up and running. So you can simply, if you don't have any projects here, simply you can click on new project and start creating the project. So I just go for such an existing application, so exam app 2. Okay, so you can give any name. Okay, so then press create. Okay, so you can create exam app. So simply select that project. After you selecting the project, we'll add some APIs. Okay, so for example, at the beginning I had only one API, then we can add additional APIs if we wish to add more APIs into it. So first one is Cloud API. Okay. So I'm going to enable this API. Okay, so now we enable this API. Okay, so you have to add the necessary API. So there are so many APIs available. So I'm going to add maps API later. So for the clear understanding, I just go with only one API right now. Okay, simply you can go back to the screen, and you can add more APIs by click this button. So simply you can go here and you can add so many APIs. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to edit this auth consent screen. Just click on this. So this is what we have to do next. So press external user type and simply create. So here you have to give a name. So I'm giving exam cal at 2. I just giving number 2 with it because I had already this application. So I just give it, you can give any name to it. Okay, so the support email is my email. Okay, press save and continue. Okay, so it asks my email again. So now you have to add scope. So you simply click on add or remove scope. So these are the necessary scopes you need to enable: the email, profile, and the open ID. In additionally, we need to add the API. Okay, so just okay. So I just select this authentication slash calendar. Okay, and I add that API and I just simply update it. Okay, so now you can see here these are non-sensitive scopes, and inside this sensitive scope you can see the calendar. Okay, so next what we have to do, just simply press save and continue. So here you can add some test users. If you don't want to add any test users, you can skip, but I'll add some users. So I have, okay, I just give some additional email addresses. Okay, you can add more users by simply press this button. I just add some additional users to test my application and press save. Okay, so continue. So this is my summary. And simply press back to dashboard. Okay. Now we can create a credentials. Simply press this credentials. Okay. So here we can create credentials. When you press create credentials, you can see here auth client ID. Just press this. Okay. And here I'm going to select the application type, web application. Okay. So you can give any name. Here I'm going to host it on localhost on port ID 3000. So I just add this. Okay, I just made a mistake. Okay. So we add this URL. If you want to add more URLs, you can add here. Okay. So I just simply create it. Now you have your client ID and your client secret. Okay, so you can simply download the JSON file. It contains all the authentication details of two details. Okay, so here you can see it contains all the details. Okay, so it contains all the project ID, authentication URL, token URL, and everything is given here. So when you do a development process, you can use these authentication types. Okay, so now we have now we created this Auth2 client ID and it's displayed on this section. Okay, so you can download it anytime. Usually we use Auth 2.0. It has so many benefits. Okay, so actually it's very flexible protocol. Okay, so and it's rely on SSL, and it allows limited access to the user's data and allow accessing when authorization token expired also. So these are some advantages of using Auth 2.0. And on developer side, it is easier to implement and provides strong authentication. Okay, so these are the facts that we use Auth 2.0. Okay, so let's see an example how this Auth 2.0 used inside on a web application. So let's navigate to front end. Let's navigate to front end part. Let's get the npm. So it's done. So we have another PowerShell. Yeah, what I need to do just edit this. Let's go to backend. So now it's up and running on localhost 3000. So when you try to sign in, it asks you to log in or choose the user. So press this. Okay, so it didn't give me the access because I didn't provide my email as a test user. So let's try with some other account and try to access this. Okay, so just simply provide continue. Just select this, continue. Okay, small away. Okay, so just set the date on 14th, 6:55. Let's set it at 8:55 a.m. and date 14th, 12, 20 p.m. and simply create the event. When you press create event, it's added to the calendar and it shows the location on web. So we can edit and add more functionalities to this uh, core application, to the exam calendar. So it has so many users, and we can add uh, here we can add an API to locate this location automatically by enabling Maps API into it. So, so hope you can understand how we can use these tokens, and let's see the code where we'll use Auth 2.0 code. So inside in our front application front end, so here you can see we pass our client ID while using signing. So this is what we get from the Google Auth 2.0 credential. Okay, and this is route through the backend of this application. So just go and check. So actually this is our backend part, and API.route.js is responsible for this. So here we provided all the Google client ID, Google client secret, and the refresh token we have. Okay, so these three variables pass as a concern variable through the backend part. So it validates the user and enables access to use the user data and to add new event into this calendar. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let's meet on some other security aspect on next video. Bye bye.